Eliza Dawson stood at her husband's grave and watched the banker nail the foreclosure notice to her front door. 3 months. That was all she had left before they took the land, the cattle, and the only home her 16-year-old brother had ever known. She had buried one man she loved. She would not bury another. So when a dusty stranger rode up and offered to pay every debt in exchange for her hand, she said yes without asking his name. She never imagined where that answer would take her. If you want to see how one desperate choice changed everything, subscribe now and stay with me until the end. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to know how far this story travels. The summer heat pressed down on Cimarron like a hand trying to smother the whole town. Eliza Dawson wiped sweat from her forehead and kept digging. The shovel bit into dry earth. Her arms burned, her back screamed, but she did not stop. 40 feet away, her brother Josiah stood with his hat in his hands watching her. "Eliza, let me finish." "No. You been at it since sunup. You ain't ate nothing." I said no. The grave was almost deep enough. She had started before dawn because she wanted it done before the heat got bad. The heat got bad anyway. Now it was past noon, and the hole was 4 feet down, and she could not feel her fingers anymore. Josiah stepped closer. "He wouldn't want you killing yourself over—" Eliza drove the shovel into the dirt and turned on him. Her eyes were dry and hard as the ground beneath her boots. "Don't you tell me what he would have wanted. Don't you dare." Josiah flinched like she had slapped him. He was 16 and trying so hard to be a man, but in that moment he looked like the scared boy she had raised since their parents died. Eliza's chest tightened. She softened her voice, though it cost her something. "Go check on the cattle. Make sure the water trough ain't dried out." He hesitated. Then he put his hat back on and walked toward the barn without looking back. Eliza watched him go. When he was out of sight, she pressed her palm against her chest and let herself breathe. Just one breath. Then she picked up the shovel and kept digging. The wooden cross was rough cut and simple. Eliza had carved the name herself, Samuel Dawson, beloved husband. She stood over the mound of fresh earth and did not cry. She had used up all her tears 2 years ago when the Brazos River took him. This second burial was just for the marker she could finally afford. That was a lie. She could not afford anything. The marker had cost her the last of the egg money. Now there was nothing left but debt and dry land, and 3 months before the bank came calling. She heard footsteps behind her, heavy boots on hard ground. "Mrs. Dawson?" She did not turn around. She knew that voice. It belonged to Harlan Cobb, the man who had been circling her ranch like a vulture for 18 months. "I ain't in the mood for company, Mr. Cobb." He stopped a few feet away. She could feel him looking at her back, measuring her the way he measured everything, by what he could take from it. "I heard about your loss. Wanted to offer my condolences." "Samuel died 2 years ago. You already offered condolences then. Twice." "I meant the loss of your options." His voice was smooth as oil on water. "Word is, the bank's done waiting. 3 months, they say. Maybe less." Now Eliza turned. Cobb stood there in his clean linen suit, his hat shading his face from the sun he never worked under. His smile was the kind that made her want to scrub her skin. "Word travels fast." "It does when a man knows how to listen." He stepped closer. "I'm here to help Mrs. Dawson. My offer still stands. Fair price for the land. Enough to clear your debts and give you a fresh start somewhere else. And the water rights. Included, of course. Which is why you want the land in the first place." His smile did not waver. "Water's valuable out here. You know that better than most. Your husband knew it too. That's why he held on so long. But he's gone now, and holding on ain't the same as winning." Eliza felt the shovel handle still in her grip. She thought about swinging it. She thought about how satisfying it would be to watch that smile break. Instead, she said, "I ain't selling. Not to you, not to anyone. Pride's a luxury, ma'am. You sure you can afford it? Get off my land." Cobb held up his hands like she was the unreasonable one. I'm just trying to help a widow in need. No crime in that. There's a crime in what you're planning. You think I don't know about the railroad coming through. You think I don't know what my water's worth to them. Something flickered in his eyes, just for a second. Then the smooth mask slid back into place. I'll be seeing you, Mrs. Dawson, when you're ready to talk sense. He tipped his hat and walked back toward his horse. Eliza watched him mount and ride away, dust rising behind him like a slow-burning fuse. That night, Eliza sat at the kitchen table with a stub of candle and a stack of papers. The numbers had not changed since last week. They would not change next week either. No matter how many times she added them, the answer was the same: she was drowning. Josiah sat across from her, pretending to read a book Rosa had lent him. He had not turned a page in 20 minutes. You gonna tell me how bad it is? He asked. It ain't your concern. I'm 16. I got a right to know if we're losing our home. Eliza put down her pencil. She looked at her brother, at the thin shoulders, the stubborn jaw, the eyes that reminded her so much of Samuel. It hurt to look at them sometimes. We ain't losing nothing. I'll figure it out. How? I don't know yet, but I will. Cobb came by again, didn't he? She did not answer. I saw him riding off when I came back from the pasture. Josiah's voice got harder. What did he want? Same thing he always wants? And you said no. I always say no. Josiah stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. Then what are we gonna do? You won't sell to Cobb. The bank won't wait. We got 40 head of cattle that ain't worth half what we owe. He was breathing hard now, trying not to cry, trying to be the man he thought he needed to be. You want me to quit school and hire out? I can work. No. Eliza stood too. She crossed to him and put her hands on his shoulders. You're getting your education. Samuel wanted that for you. I want that for you. Samuel's dead, Eliza. What he wanted don't matter anymore. She felt the words hit her like a blow, not because they were cruel, because they were true. Go to bed, she said quietly. We'll talk in the morning. Josiah looked like he wanted to argue. Then he just shook his head and climbed the ladder to the loft. Eliza stood alone in the candlelight. The papers stared up at her, full of numbers that added up to ruin. She pressed her hand against her chest again, feeling her heart beat steady and stubborn, refusing to give up, even when her mind had already calculated the end. The next morning, Eliza walked into Rosa Medina's store with empty hands and a list she could not afford. Rosa looked up from behind the counter. She was 55 years old, with silver streaking her black hair and eyes that saw everything twice. You look like hell, mija. Good morning to you too. Rosa came around the counter and took Eliza's face in her hands, turning it side to side like she was checking a horse for injury. You ain't sleeping. You ain't eating. How long since you had a real meal? I eat fine. You eat what's left after Josiah's had his fill. Don't lie to me. Eliza pulled away gently. I need flour, and salt, and coffee if you got any that ain't too dear. Rosa crossed her arms. I got all that. Question is what you're paying with. I can trade eggs next week, and butter if the cow cooperates. Cow's been dry for a month, Josiah told me. Eliza felt heat rise in her cheeks. He talks too much. He's worried about his sister, as he should be. Rosa's voice softened. Eliza, let me help. I can carry you on credit for... No. The word came out sharper than Eliza intended. I don't take charity. It ain't charity. It's friendship. Friendship don't pay bills. I learned that the hard way. Eliza reached into her pocket and pulled out a small pouch. Inside were 3 silver coins, the last of her emergency fund, the money she had sworn never to touch. This'll cover what I need. Ring me up. Rosa looked at the coins like they were pieces of Eliza's heart, which in a way they were. You sure about this? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Rosa took the coins slowly. She gathered the supplies without another word. But when she handed over the sack, she held onto Eliza's hand for a moment. Pride kept your husband digging in dry riverbeds until it killed him. Don't let it do the same to you." Eliza pulled her hand free. Samuel wasn't proud. He was hopeful. There's a difference. Is there? Eliza did not have an answer for that. She took her supplies and walked out into the heat. She was halfway home when she saw the rider. He was sitting on his horse at the edge of her property, looking out over the land like he was appraising it. Tall man, broad shoulders, dusty clothes that had seen better days. A sweat-stained hat pulled low over his face. Eliza's hand went to the rifle she always carried now. She had learned to shoot the year Samuel died. She had learned a lot of things that year. The rider saw her coming and turned his horse to face her. He did not reach for any weapon. He did not move at all, just sat there calm and still like a man who had nothing to prove and nowhere else to be. Eliza stopped 20 feet away. The sun was brutal, beating down on both of them without mercy. "You're on my land," she said. "Yes, ma'am." His voice was low and steady, no rush in it. "Name's Jesse. I was passing through. Stopped to water my horse at your creek. Creek's dry this time of year." I noticed. A hint of something humor maybe flickered at the corner of his mouth. "Reckon I should have asked first. My apologies." Eliza studied him. His clothes were worn but clean. His boots were good quality though scuffed from hard use. His hands resting easy on his saddle horn were calloused and strong. "You looking for work?" she asked. "Because I ain't hiring." "Wasn't asking for work." "Then what do you want?" He was quiet for a moment. Those dark eyes of his moved over her face, not measuring her the way Cobb did, but something else. Something she could not quite name. "I heard about your situation," he said finally. "Word is, you're in trouble with the bank. Word travels too damn fast in this town. Small places are like that." He shifted in his saddle. "I might have a way to help, if you're willing to listen." "I don't take help from strangers." "Then let me stop being a stranger." He swung down from his horse in one smooth motion and walked toward her. Not fast, not slow. Like a man approaching a wild animal, he did not want to spook. He stopped 10 feet away and took off his hat. His face was weathered from sun and wind, with a thin scar running along his jawline. He looked like a man who had lived hard and made no apologies for it. "I got some land up in the hills," he said. "Cattle operation. Small but steady. I've been looking for a partner." "A partner?" "Someone to help me run things. Someone strong. Someone who knows this kind of work." He paused. "Someone who needs a way out of a bad situation." Eliza felt something cold move through her chest. "You asking me to work for you?" "No, ma'am." He met her eyes straight on. "I'm asking you to marry me." The words hung in the hot air between them. For a long moment, Eliza could not speak. Then she laughed a harsh, ugly sound that had no humor in it. "Marry you? A man I met 5 minutes ago. I know how it sounds." "Do you?" "Because it sounds like you're either crazy or running some kind of game." "I ain't crazy, and I don't play games." He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his brown eyes. "Here's what I'm offering. You marry me, I pay off your debts to the bank, all of them. Your brother keeps his home. Your land stays in your name. In return, you come live with me and help run the operation. And share your bed, only if you want to. I ain't forcing nothing." His voice stayed even. "I need a partner, Mrs. Dawson. A real one. Someone who can work beside me and stand up when things get hard. I've been watching you for a while now. I know what you're made of." "Watching me? I seen you at the trading post arguing for fair prices. I seen you mending fences in 100-degree heat. I seen you facing down Harlan Cobb without flinching." Something shifted in his face, respect maybe, or something deeper. "You're stronger than most men I know. And I don't say that to flatter you. I say it because it's true." Eliza's mind was spinning. Every instinct told her this was wrong. A stranger offering marriage out of nowhere. A deal too good to be true. There had to be a catch. There was always a catch. "What's in it for you?" she demanded. "What do you really want?" Jesse put his hat back on. His eyes never left hers. I want someone who sees me for what I am, not for what I have. He paused, and something flickered across his face, pain maybe, or old wounds that had never healed. I'm tired of being alone, Mrs. Dawson. Tired of wondering if the people around me care about me or what they can get from me. I don't even know you. No, but you could. He reached into his saddlebag and pulled out a folded paper. This is a contract, legally binding. It says everything I just told you, the debts, the land, the terms. You can have a lawyer look it over if you don't trust me. Eliza took the paper without opening it. Her hands were shaking. She hated that. She had sworn she would never shake in front of anyone again. I need to think, she said. Take all the time you need. Jesse mounted his horse again. I'll be at the boarding house in town for the next 3 days. After that, I got to head back to my place. He touched the brim of his hat. Whatever you decide, I wish you well, Mrs. Dawson. You deserve better than what this town's given you. He turned his horse and rode away. Eliza stood in the middle of the dirt road, the paper in her hand, the sun hammering down on her shoulders. She watched him disappear into the heat shimmer, a stranger with a strange offer, a way out she had never expected, and a choice that would change everything she thought she knew about herself, about trust, and about the dusty cowboy who claimed he only wanted a partner. She had no idea what she was about to walk into. 3 days. That was how long Eliza had before the stranger rode out of her life forever. She spent the first day telling herself she would not go to him. The second day, she spent reading the contract until the words blurred. The third day, she woke before dawn, and her hands were already reaching for her good dress before her mind caught up. Josiah found her at the kitchen table with the paper spread out in front of her. What's that? She folded it quick. Nothing. Don't look like nothing. He sat down across from her, sleep still in his eyes, but suspicion already sharpening them. You've been acting strange since that writer came by. Who was he? Nobody important. Eliza. She looked at her brother. 16 years old and already carrying weight no boy his age should carry. Their parents' death, Samuel's death. The slow, grinding terror of watching everything slip away. His name is Jesse, she said finally. He made me an offer. What kind of offer? She did not answer. Josiah's face went hard. What kind of offer, Eliza? Marriage. The word dropped between them like a stone into still water. Josiah stared at her. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. You ain't serious. He'd pay off the debts, all of them. The land stays in our name. You keep your home. In exchange for what you? In exchange for a partner. Someone to help run his place up in the hills. Josiah stood up so fast, his chair crashed backward. You're talking about selling yourself to a stranger. That's what you're talking about. I'm talking about saving this family. By whoring yourself out. Eliza was on her feet before she knew she was moving. Her hand cracked across his face, hard enough to turn his head. The sound echoed through the small kitchen. Josiah touched his cheek. His eyes were wet, but he did not cry. He just looked at her like he did not recognize her anymore. I'm sorry, Eliza whispered. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. Do what you want. His voice was flat and cold. You always do anyway. He walked out the door and did not look back. Eliza stood alone, her hands still stinging her heart, cracking down the middle. She looked at the contract on the table, the paper that might save them or destroy them. She did not know which. But she knew she was out of time. She put on her good dress and walked to town. The boarding house sat at the end of Main Street, a 2-story building with peeling paint and a porch that sagged in the middle. Eliza climbed the steps and knocked on the door before she could change her mind. A tired-looking woman answered. Help you. I'm looking for a man named Jesse. He's been staying here. Room 4. Top of the stairs. The woman looked her over with knowing eyes. He expecting you? I don't know. She climbed the stairs. Her boots sounded too loud on the wooden steps. Her heart beat too fast in her chest. She stopped outside room 4 and raised her hand to knock. The door opened before she could touch it. Jesse stood there in his worn shirt and canvas trousers, like he had been waiting for her, like he had known she would come. "Mrs. Dawson." "I have questions." He stepped aside. "Come in." The room was small and plain. A bed, a chair, a washstand. Nothing that told her who this man really was. Eliza did not sit. She stood in the middle of the room with her arms crossed and her chin raised. "Why me?" Jesse closed the door. "I already told you." "Tell me again." He leaned against the wall, arms folded, watching her with those steady dark eyes. "I need someone strong, someone honest, someone who won't break when things get hard. There are plenty of strong women in this world. Why ride all the way out here for a broke widow with nothing but debt and a dying ranch? Because you're the only one who looked Harlan Cobb in the eye and told him to go to hell." Eliza blinked. "You saw that. I told you. I've been watching." He pushed off the wall and stepped closer. "Most people cave when Cobb pushes. They take his money and walk away. You didn't. You stood your ground even when you had nothing left to stand on. That's rare." "That's stupid is what it is." "Maybe." A ghost of a smile crossed his face. "But it's the kind of stupid I need." Eliza studied him. The scar on his jaw, the calloused hands, the way he held himself easy but alert, like a man who expected trouble and knew how to meet it. "What ain't you telling me?" The smile faded. Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or fear. "Everybody's got secrets, Mrs. Dawson. I reckon you got a few of your own." "I asked you a question." Jesse was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I'm asking you to trust me. I know that's a big ask. But if you come with me, I promise you'll understand everything. And I promise I won't ever lie to you. You're lying right now, by not telling me the whole truth. No, ma'am. I'm asking you to wait for it." He held her gaze. "There's a difference." Eliza felt something shift in her chest. She did not know if it was fear or hope or something else entirely. She only knew that this man was offering her a rope, and she was drowning. She could grab it, or she could let go. "I'll marry you," she said. "But I got conditions." "Name them." "Josiah comes with me. He's my brother. I ain't leaving him behind." "Agreed." "I keep my rifle, and I use it if I need to." "Wouldn't expect anything less. And if you ever hurt me, if you ever lay a hand on me in anger, I'll put a bullet in you while you sleep. That's not a threat. That's a promise." Jesse nodded slowly. "Fair enough. Then we have a deal." She held out her hand. He took it. His grip was warm and rough and steady. "We leave tomorrow," he said. "First light." The wedding happened that afternoon in the back room of the general store. Rosa served as witness, her face tight with worry. The preacher was old and half blind and did not ask questions. He read the words from his worn book, and Eliza said, "I do," to a man she had known for 3 days. When it was done, Rosa pulled her aside. "You sure about this, mija?" "No." "Then why are you doing it?" Eliza looked across the room at Jesse, who was signing the marriage certificate with a steady hand. "Because sometimes you don't get to be sure. Sometimes you just have to move." Rosa hugged her tight. "You write to me, every week. You hear, 'I will.' And if he turns out to be trouble, then I'll handle it. Same as I handle everything else." Rosa's eyes were wet when she pulled back. "Your mama would be proud of you. Samuel, too." Eliza did not answer. She was not sure her mama would be proud. She was not sure Samuel would either. But they were dead, and she was alive, and the living had to keep moving forward. That night, she packed what little she owned into a canvas bag. Josiah sat on his bed in the loft watching her with cold eyes. "I ain't going." "Yes, you are. You can't make me." Eliza stopped packing. She climbed the ladder and sat down beside him. He would not look at her. "I know you're angry," she said quietly. "You got every right to be. But this is the only way I know to keep us together. If I don't do this, the bank takes everything. You end up in some poor house or working as a hand on somebody else's ranch. Is that what you want? I want things to go back to how they were. They can't. Samuel's gone. The money's gone. All we got left is each other. She put her hand on his arm. I need you with me, Josiah. I can't do this alone. He was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. If he hurts you, he won't. If he does, I'll kill him. Eliza almost smiled. I know you would. That's why I need you there. They left before dawn. Jesse had a wagon waiting loaded with supplies and hitched to 2 strong horses. Josiah sat in the back, silent and sullen. Eliza sat up front beside Jesse, her rifle across her knees. The town fell away behind them. The road climbed into the hills. The sun rose hot and heavy, and the dust coated everything in fine brown powder. For the first hour, nobody spoke. Then Jesse glanced at her. You sleep at all last night? Some. Liar. Fine. I didn't sleep. Worried. Wouldn't you be? He considered that. Reckon I would. They rode in silence for a while longer. Then Eliza asked, How far is your place? 2 days by wagon, maybe less if the weather holds. And when we get there, then you see everything, no more secrets. She looked at him. His face was calm, but there was tension in his shoulders, like a man carrying something heavy that he could not put down. You're nervous, she said. He did not deny it. Ain't every day a man brings home a wife. You done this before? No, ma'am. You're my first. Lucky me. That almost got a smile out of him. Almost. By midday, the hills had grown into ridges. The trail narrowed. Jesse guided the horses with easy skill, reading the land like a book he had memorized long ago. Josiah finally broke his silence. Where exactly are we going? Place called Callahan Creek, Jesse said. Named after my father. He's still alive? No. Died 5 years back. Sorry to hear it. Jesse shrugged. He wasn't an easy man, but he built something that lasted. That's more than most can say. Eliza filed that information away. A dead father, an inherited place, a man who spoke of building things that lasted. Pieces of a puzzle she could not yet see. That night they camped beside a dry creek bed. Jesse built a fire while Eliza unpacked food. Josiah wandered off to check on the horses, still keeping his distance. He'll come around, Jesse said. Maybe. He's protective of you. That's a good thing. He's 16 and scared. There's a difference. Jesse handed her a cup of coffee. Their fingers brushed. Neither of them pulled away. You're scared too, he said. I ain't scared of much. That ain't what I asked. Eliza looked into the fire. The flames danced and popped, sending sparks up into the dark sky. I'm scared I made a mistake, she admitted. I'm scared I'm walking into something I don't understand. I'm scared that when I finally see the whole truth, it's going to be worse than what I imagined. Jesse sat down beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat of him. What if it's better? She turned to look at him. Is it? He held her gaze. Ask me again in 2 days. They slept on opposite sides of the fire. Eliza kept her rifle close and her eyes open for a long time. She watched Jesse's chest rise and fall in the firelight, steady as a heartbeat, and wondered what kind of man she had married. The second day was harder. The trail climbed steeper. The sun beat down without mercy. Josiah complained about the heat until Eliza told him to shut up or walk. By late afternoon, they reached a narrow pass between 2 ridges. Jesse pulled the wagon to a stop. What is it? Eliza asked. We're close. He did not move. His hands gripped the reins tight enough to turn his knuckles white. Before we go any further, I need you to know something. What? He turned to face her. His eyes were dark and serious. Whatever you see on the other side of this pass, whatever you think about me after, I need you to know that everything I told you was true. I need a partner. I chose you because you're strong, and I will never, ever lie to you." Eliza's heart started beating faster. "Jesse, what's on the other side of this pass?" He did not answer. He just clicked to the horses and drove forward. The wagon rolled through the narrow gap. The walls of rock pressed close on either side. Then the pass opened up, and Eliza saw it. A valley spread out below them, wide and green, even in the summer heat. A river cut through the middle, sparkling in the afternoon light, and in the center of the valley stood a house. No, not a house. A mansion. It was built of stone and timber, 3 stories tall, with wide porches wrapping around every level. Barns and outbuildings spread out around it. Corrals held hundreds of horses. Beyond them, cattle dotted the grassland as far as she could see. Eliza could not breathe, could not think, could not do anything but stare. "Jesse," her voice came out as a whisper. "What is this?" He was watching her face, waiting, bracing himself. "This is Callahan Ranch," he said quietly. 30,000 acres, 2,000 head of cattle, freight contracts with the railroad. He paused. "It's mine, all of it." The words did not make sense. They bounced around in her head like stones in an empty tin. "You said—" She had to stop and start again. "You said you had a small place, a cattle operation, small but steady." "I lied about the size. I didn't lie about needing a partner." "You're rich." "Yes, you're rich, and you dressed up like a drifter and came looking for a wife in the poorest town in Texas." "Yes." Eliza felt something building in her chest. She did not know if it was rage or shock or betrayal or all 3 at once. "Why?" Jesse climbed down from the wagon. He stood in front of her, looking up, his face stripped of all defense. "Because my father left me everything, and everyone I've met since has wanted a piece of it. The business partners, the society women, the politicians. They smile and flatter and scheme, and none of them, not one, sees anything but the money." His voice cracked, just slightly, just enough to show the wound beneath. "I needed to find someone who would choose me when I had nothing to offer. Someone who would say yes to the man, not the fortune." He swallowed hard. "I needed to know it was real." Eliza stared at him. The dusty cowboy. The quiet stranger. The man who had watched her argue for fair prices and stand up to Harlan Cobb and refuse to bend. He had been testing her. This whole time he had been testing her. "You lied to me." "I omitted. I didn't lie." "That's the same damn thing." "No, it ain't." He stepped closer. "Everything I told you about why I chose you was true. Everything I promised, the debts, the land, the partnership, all of it is real. The only thing I held back was the scale." "The scale?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You held back a fortune. You held back a mansion. You held back the fact that you're probably one of the richest men in Texas. Would you have said yes if you'd known?" The question stopped her cold. She thought about it, really thought about it. A rich man offering marriage to a poor widow. What would she have assumed? That he wanted a plaything, a trophy, someone he could control with his money. She would have told him to go to hell. "No," she admitted. "I wouldn't have. That's why I didn't tell you." Jesse's voice was steady now, certain. "I didn't want you to say yes to the money. I wanted you to say yes to me." Josiah had climbed out of the wagon and was standing with his mouth open, staring at the valley below. "Holy hell," he breathed. "Eliza, are you seeing this?" She was seeing it. She just did not know what to do with it. "I could turn around," she said slowly. "Right now, I could take the wagon and go back to Cimarron and forget any of this ever happened." "You could." Jesse did not move. "The deal still stands. Your debts are paid. Your land is safe. I won't take that back no matter what you decide." "Why not?" "Because I keep my promises. And because you earned it." She looked at him. Really looked. Past the dusty clothes and the weathered face. Past the careful mask he wore like armor. She saw fear. Real fear. The fear of a man who had risked everything and was waiting to see if it would be enough. "You're a damn fool," she said. "Probably." "You should have told me the truth from the start." "Probably." "I ought to be furious with you." "Are you—" Eliza thought about it. The anger was there, yes. But underneath it was something else. Something that felt almost like relief. She had married a man who could have bought any woman in Texas, and he had chosen her. Not because she was beautiful or refined or came from a good family, because she was stubborn and sharp-tongued and refused to give up. That meant something. She was not sure what yet, but it meant something. "Ask me again tomorrow," she said. For the first time since they'd stopped, Jesse smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "Yes, ma'am." They drove down into the valley as the sun began to set. The closer they got to the big house, the more people appeared. Ranch hands stopped their work to watch. A man in clean clothes came out onto the porch and raised his hand in greeting. "Mr. Callahan, we've been expecting you." Jesse climbed down and helped Eliza from the wagon. His hand was steady. Hers was not. "This is Mrs. Callahan," he said. "My wife." The man's eyebrows rose slightly, but he recovered fast. "Ma'am, welcome to Callahan Ranch. I'm Thomas the foreman. Anything you need, you just ask." Eliza nodded. She did not trust her voice. Jesse led her up the steps and through the front door. Inside the house was even bigger than it looked. High ceilings, polished floors, furniture that cost more than her old ranch was worth. She stopped in the middle of the great room. Her work-rough hands hung at her sides. Her faded dress looked wrong against the rich wood and fine fabric. "I don't belong here," she said quietly. Jesse stood beside her. "Yes, you do. I'm a rancher's widow from a nothing town. I don't know how to live in a place like this." "Then we'll figure it out together." He turned to face her. "I didn't bring you here to change you, Eliza. I brought you here because of who you already are. That woman who stood in the dust and told Harlan Cobb to get off her land, that's who I married. That's who I need." She looked up at him. Her eyes were burning, but she would not let herself cry. Not yet. "What happens now? Now you rest. Tomorrow you see the rest of the operation. And then—" He paused. "Then you meet the people who are going to try to take all of this away from both of us." Eliza felt a chill run down her spine. "What people?" Jesse's jaw tightened. Something dark passed through his eyes. "My father's old partner, a man named Marcus Whitfield. He's been trying to push me out ever since my father died. He thinks I'm too soft to run this place, too idealistic." He met her gaze. "He's going to hate you on sight, and he's going to do everything in his power to destroy our marriage." Eliza thought about Harlan Cobb and his oily smile. She thought about the creditors who had circled her like wolves. She thought about every man who had ever looked at her and seen something to use or discard. "Let him try," she said. Jesse's smile was slow and warm and full of something that looked almost like hope. "That's exactly what I was counting on." Marcus Whitfield arrived 3 days later. Eliza was in the kitchen with Rosa. Jesse had sent for her as a wedding gift, and the older woman had come without hesitation when she heard the horses, 4 of them riding fast up the main road. Rosa looked out the window and went still. "Trouble's here, mija." Eliza wiped her hands on her apron and walked to the front porch. Jesse was already there, standing with his arms crossed, watching the riders approach. The lead horse carried a man in his late 50s with silver hair and a suit too fine for ranch country. Behind him rode 3 younger men in matching dark coats. Lawyers, maybe, or hired muscle dressed up pretty. "That him?" Eliza asked quietly. "That's him." The riders stopped at the foot of the porch steps. Marcus Whitfield swung down from his horse with the ease of a man who had done it 1,000 times. His eyes swept over the house, the land, the cattle in the distance. Then they landed on Eliza. She felt the weight of that look. Cold, calculating, measuring her worth and finding her lacking. "Jesse?" Whitfield's voice was smooth as honey poured over broken glass. I heard you'd come back. And I heard you brought something with you. Her name is Eliza. She's my wife." So the rumors said. Whitfield climbed the steps slowly, his polished boots making no sound. Though I confess I didn't believe them. The Jesse Callahan I know would never make such an important decision without consulting the board. The board doesn't choose my wife. I do. The board protects this company, which means the board has a say in anything that might put the company at risk. Whitfield stopped 3 feet away from Eliza and looked her over like she was livestock at auction. And I must say, this looks very much like a risk. Eliza held his gaze. "You got something to say to me? Say it to my face." Whitfield's eyebrows rose. She speaks. She does more than that. Jesse stepped between them. "What do you want, Marcus?" "A conversation, in private." He glanced at Eliza. "Family business." "She is family now." "By law, perhaps. But the law can be complicated." Whitfield smiled, and there was nothing warm in it. Especially when marriages happen fast and without proper documentation. Eliza felt ice form in her stomach. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I have questions, Mrs. Callahan. Questions about where you came from. Questions about what you're really after. Questions about whether this marriage is even legal." Jesse's hands curled into fists. "Don't you dare!" "I dare because I must." Whitfield's voice hardened. "Your father trusted me to protect what he built. I won't stand by and watch you hand it over to some scheming widow from a dirt road town." The words hit Eliza like a slap, but she did not flinch. She had heard worse from Harlan Cobb. She had survived worse than this silver-haired snake in his fancy suit. "I ain't scheming for nothing," she said quietly. "Your boy here came to me, not the other way around." "My boy." Whitfield laughed. "I'm not his father, Mrs. Callahan. I was his father's partner, and I know things about this family that Jesse has never told you." "Marcus." Jesse's voice was low and dangerous. "That's enough. Is it? Does she know about your mother? Does she know why your father worked himself to death? Does she know what kind of blood runs in the Callahan line?" Jesse moved fast. 1 second he was standing beside Eliza. The next, he had Whitfield by the collar, shoving him back against the porch railing. "You say one more word about my mother, and I'll throw you off this property myself." The 3 men behind Whitfield reached for their coats. Eliza's hand went to her hip where her pistol waited. "Easy now?" Whitfield held up his hands, but he was smiling. Smiling like a man who had gotten exactly what he wanted. "I didn't come here to fight. I came here to deliver a message." Jesse released him slowly. "What message?" Whitfield straightened his collar. His eyes never left Jesse's face. "The board meets in 2 weeks. We'll be voting on the future of the company. If you want any chance of keeping control, you'll need to prove that this marriage is legitimate. That means lawyers. That means documents. That means convincing a room full of investors that your new wife isn't a fortune hunter who tricked you into a hasty wedding. I don't have to prove anything to you. No, but you have to prove it to them." Whitfield jerked his chin toward the men behind him. "These gentlemen represent the Eastern investors who own 40% of this company. They have concerns. Serious concerns. And if those concerns aren't addressed, they'll vote to remove you as head of the operation." Eliza's heart was pounding, but her voice stayed steady. "You can't remove a man from his own company. Actually, we can. The charter your father-in-law wrote gives the board that power in cases of gross mismanagement or conduct that endangers the company's reputation." Whitfield's smile widened. Marrying a penniless widow 3 days after meeting her could certainly be interpreted as endangering behavior. Jesse was breathing hard. Eliza could see the fury in his shoulders, the tension in his jaw. "Get off my land," he said. "Gladly, but think about what I said." Whitfield descended the steps. At the bottom he turned back. 2 weeks, Jesse. Bring your wife. Bring your documents, and pray that your little romance can survive the light of day." He mounted his horse and rode away. His men followed. The dust settled behind them like a slow-closing curtain. Jesse did not move for a long time. When he finally turned to Eliza, his face was pale. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't think he'd come this fast." "What did he mean about your mother?" Jesse flinched like she had struck him. "Not now." "Jesse, I said not now." He walked past her into the house. A moment later she heard a door slam somewhere deep inside. Rosa appeared at her elbow. "Give him time, mija. Some wounds take longer to open." "I don't have time. That man just threatened to take everything." "Then you fight. But you fight smart." Rosa took her arm. "Come, we have planning to do." That night, Eliza found Jesse in the study. He was sitting in the dark with a bottle of whiskey and a stack of papers. He did not look up when she came in. She sat down across from him and waited. After a long silence, he spoke. "My mother killed herself when I was 12. The words hung in the air between them. Eliza did not move, did not breathe. "She was fragile," Jesse continued. His voice was flat and empty. "That's what my father always said. Fragile, like she was made of glass, and the world kept breaking her." He poured himself another drink. "The truth is, my father broke her. He loved this ranch more than he loved her, more than he loved me. He worked 20 hours a day building his empire, and he left her alone in this big house with nothing but servants and silence. Jesse, one morning I came downstairs and found her in the kitchen. She'd used one of the carving knives." He closed his eyes. "I was 12 years old. I didn't even know what death looked like until I saw it on my mother's face." Eliza felt tears burning in her eyes, but she did not let them fall. "I'm sorry. My father buried her without a funeral. Said it would be bad for business if people knew. He told everyone she died of fever. Then he went back to work like nothing happened." Jesse opened his eyes and looked at her. "That's the man who built this place. That's the blood Whitfield was talking about. Cold, ruthless, willing to sacrifice anything for the ranch." "You ain't your father." "No, but Whitfield thinks I should be. He thinks my father was a great man who built something magnificent. He thinks I'm too soft, too idealistic, too willing to put people above profit." Jesse's jaw tightened. "He's been trying to push me out since the day my father died. This marriage just gave him the excuse he needed." Eliza reached across the desk and took his hand. "Then we don't give him what he wants." "How you heard him. The board meets in 2 weeks. If he can convince them the marriage is illegitimate, then we prove it's legitimate. We get the documents. We find witnesses. We do whatever it takes." "It's not that simple. Whitfield has lawyers, money, connections. He's been planning this for years. So have I." Eliza squeezed his hand. "Maybe not this exact fight, but I've been fighting my whole life, Jesse. Fighting to keep my family together. Fighting to hold on to land that everyone wanted to take from me. Fighting to survive when the world kept trying to push me under." She met his eyes. "I didn't come this far to lose now." Something shifted in Jesse's face. The despair cracked, and beneath it she saw something else. Hope, maybe, or the beginning of it. "You really think we can beat him?" "I think we don't have a choice." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "There might be a way, but it's dangerous." "Tell me." "Whitfield's not the only one with power on that board. There's a woman named Clara, his daughter." Eliza blinked. "His daughter sits on the board. She inherited her mother's shares when she died, 20% of the company. Whitfield controls another 20 through his own stake and the investors he's brought in. The rest is split between me and a handful of smaller shareholders. So if Clara voted with you, then Whitfield couldn't win, not without her." Jesse's expression darkened. "The problem is Clara was supposed to marry me. That was the plan. Whitfield's been grooming her for it since we were children. He thought if he couldn't control the company through the board, he'd control it through his daughter." Eliza felt something cold move through her chest. "You were engaged." "No, never formally, but everyone expected it. Clara most of all." He looked away. "When I rode out looking for someone else, someone real, I broke more than just his plans. I broke hers too." "So she hates you?" "I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Jesse turned back to her. But she's our only chance. If I can talk to her, if I can make her understand, if you can convince her to betray her own father. Yes, Eliza thought about that. A woman raised to be a prize, groomed for a marriage that never happened. Watching the man she expected to marry bring home a stranger instead. I'll talk to her, Eliza said. Jesse stared at her. What? You said she was hurt when you chose someone else. If you go to her now, she'll think you're using her. But if I go woman to woman, maybe she'll listen. Eliza, that's dangerous. I know. But so is sitting here waiting for Whitfield to destroy us. Jesse opened his mouth to argue. Then he closed it. She could see him thinking, weighing the risks, calculating the odds. She's staying at the Grand Hotel in Austin, he said finally. She always does when she's in Texas. Room 12 corner suite. Then that's where I'm going. I'm coming with you. No, Eliza stood. This has to be just me. If she sees us together, she'll think it's a trap. But if I show up alone, maybe she'll believe I'm genuine. And if she turns you over to her father, then I'll handle it, same as I handle everything else. Jesse looked at her for a long moment. Then he stood and crossed to her. He took her face in his hands gently, like she was something precious. You're the bravest person I've ever met, he said. I'm the most stubborn. There's a difference. He almost smiled. Maybe they're the same thing. She left the next morning before dawn. Thomas, the foreman, drove her to the train station in the wagon. Josiah wanted to come, but Eliza told him to stay and watch over Jesse. Her brother had warmed to the rancher over the past few days. Not all the way, but enough. The train to Austin took 6 hours. Eliza spent them staring out the window, running conversations in her head, preparing for every possible outcome. The Grand Hotel was the finest building she had ever seen. White columns, glass windows, doormen in uniforms that cost more than her old ranch. She walked through the lobby like she belonged there. Nobody stopped her. Nobody asked questions. She found the stairs and climbed to the second floor. Room 12, corner suite. She knocked before she could change her mind. The door opened. A woman stood there in a silk dressing gown, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders. She was beautiful in the way magazine pictures were beautiful, perfect and polished and somehow not quite real. Can I help you? Her voice was cool and cautious. My name is Eliza Callahan. I'm Jesse's wife. The woman's face went blank. For a moment Eliza thought she would slam the door. Instead she stepped back. You'd better come in. Clara Whitfield sat on a velvet settee and studied Eliza like a specimen under glass. Eliza stood in the middle of the room, refusing to sit, refusing to look intimidated. So you're the one, Clara said finally. The widow from nowhere who stole my future. I didn't steal nothing. I didn't even know about you until 3 days ago. And yet here you are, in my hotel room, wearing his ring. Clara's eyes dropped to Eliza's hand. It was supposed to be my ring, you know. My father had it designed when I was 16. He showed me the sketches, told me it would be mine when Jesse finally proposed. Eliza looked at the simple gold band on her finger. I didn't ask for this. Then why did you take it? Because I didn't have a choice. Something flickered in Clara's eyes. Curiosity, maybe, or recognition. Sit down, she said. Tell me everything. So Eliza did. She told Clara about the debts, about Harlan Cobb, about the stranger who rode up with an offer she couldn't refuse. She told her about the wagon ride and the pass and the moment she saw the valley spread out below her. She told her about the rage she felt when she realized Jesse had been testing her, and she told her about the fear she felt now knowing that everything could be taken away. When she finished, Clara was quiet for a long time. My father thinks you're a fortune hunter, she said at last. Your father don't know me. No, he doesn't. Clara stood and walked to the window. He doesn't know much about women, actually. He thinks we're all the same. Prizes to be won, pieces on a board. She turned back to Eliza. I was supposed to marry Jesse and give my father control of the company. That was my purpose, my entire reason for existing. That ain't a life. That's a prison. I know. Clara's voice cracked. I know that. But knowing it and escaping it are different things. Eliza crossed the room and stood beside her. What if you could escape? What if you had a choice? What do you mean? Your father needs your votes to push Jesse out. Without you, he can't win. You've got power, Clara. Real power. You just ain't been allowed to use it. Clara's eyes widened. You want me to vote against my own father? I want you to vote for yourself, for the life you deserve instead of the one he planned for you. He'll destroy me. He'll cut me off. He'll try. Eliza took her hands. But you won't be alone. You'll have me. You'll have Jesse. You'll have people who see you as more than a piece on a board. Clara was shaking. Tears streamed down her perfect face. You don't know what you're asking. Yes, I do. I'm asking you to be brave. I'm asking you to fight for something that matters. Eliza squeezed her hands. I know it's hard. I know it's scary. But I also know that the only way out is through. And I think you've been waiting your whole life for someone to tell you that. Clara looked at her for a long moment. The tears kept falling, but something else was rising in her eyes, something that looked almost like hope. The board meets in Austin, she said quietly. 2 weeks from now, the Cattlemen's Association building. I know. My father expects me to vote with him. He's already written my statement. What do you want to do? Clara pulled her hands free and wiped her face. She walked to her writing desk and picked up a pen. Her hand was steady as she wrote. I want to burn it all down, she said, and build something better in the ashes. She signed the paper and handed it to Eliza. It was a proxy statement. Clara Whitfield transferring her voting rights to Jesse Callahan for all matters pertaining to the upcoming board meeting. Eliza stared at it. Clara, are you sure? No. Clara almost smiled. But I'm done being sure. I'm done being safe. I want to find out who I am when I'm not my father's daughter. Eliza folded the paper carefully and tucked it into her dress. You're making the right choice. Maybe, or maybe I'm making the biggest mistake of my life. Clara walked her to the door. Either way, it's mine to make. And that's worth something. Eliza stepped into the hallway. Before she could walk away, Clara called her name. Eliza. She turned back. Take care of him. Jesse, I mean. He's not as strong as he pretends to be. Neither am I. But we're stronger together. Clara nodded slowly. I think I'm starting to understand that. The door closed between them. Eliza walked back through the hotel with the proxy statement burning against her skin. She had done it. She had found their weapon. Now she just had to survive long enough to use it. She was halfway to the train station when she saw them. 3 men in dark coats walking fast, their eyes locked on her face. Whitfield's men. The same ones who had come to the ranch. She turned down a side street. They followed. She walked faster. So did they. She broke into a run. Behind her, she heard boots pounding on cobblestones. Heard a voice shout for her to stop. She did not stop. She ran through alleys and around corners, her lungs burning, her heart hammering. The proxy statement crinkled against her chest with every step. She turned one last corner and found herself in a dead end. A brick wall. No way out. The footsteps closed in behind her. She turned to face them. 3 men. One of them was smiling. Mrs. Callahan, he said. Mr. Whitfield would like a word. Eliza pressed her back against the brick wall and reached for her pistol. It was not there. She had left it at the ranch, thinking a lady did not carry weapons into fine hotels. Stupid. Stupid and careless. The lead man stepped closer. He was tall and broad, with a face that had seen plenty of fights and won most of them. No need for this to get ugly, ma'am. Just come with us quiet-like. I ain't going anywhere with you. Mr. Whitfield figured you'd say that. He pulled something from his coat, a piece of paper folded neat. He wanted me to show you this." Eliza did not move. "What is it?" "Proof. Of your first husband's debts. Seems Samuel Dawson owed money to some very dangerous people before he died. People who might come looking for his widow if they found out where she was." Her blood went cold. "That's a lie." "Is it?" The man smiled. It did not reach his eyes. "Mr. Whitfield has friends everywhere, Mrs. Callahan. Friends who can make problems appear. Or disappear." He tucked the paper back into his coat. "All you gotta do is hand over whatever Clara gave you. Then you go back to your ranch, tell your husband the trip was a waste, and forget any of this ever happened." Eliza's mind raced. The proxy statement was still pressed against her chest, hidden beneath her dress. If she gave it up, Whitfield won. Jessie lost everything, and she went back to being nothing. "No." The man sighed like she was a child who refused to eat her vegetables. "I was hoping you'd be reasonable." He nodded to the other two. They moved forward. Eliza grabbed a broken bottle from the ground and swung it at the first man's face. He jerked back, cursing, blood streaming from a cut on his cheek. The second man caught her arm and twisted it behind her back. Pain shot through her shoulder. "Feisty," he grunted. "I like that. Let her go." The voice came from the mouth of the alley. All four of them turned. Josiah stood there with a rifle in his hands. His face was pale, but his grip was steady. "I said let her go. Now." The lead man laughed. "Boy, you don't want to do this." "Maybe not, but I'm doing it anyway." Josiah raised the rifle. "You got 3 seconds to step away from my sister. 1. You ain't gonna shoot. 2. Kid, put the gun down before. 3. Josiah fired. The bullet hit the cobblestones an inch from the lead man's boot. The crack echoed off the alley walls like thunder. "Next one goes in your knee," Josiah said. His voice did not shake. "Then the other knee. Then we see how fast you can crawl back to Whitfield." The man holding Eliza let go. All three of them backed toward the far end of the alley, hands raised. "This ain't over," the lead man said. Whitfield can go to hell." Eliza grabbed Josiah's arm. "Come on, we're leaving." They ran. Through the streets around corners, not stopping until they reached the train station. Eliza's lungs burned. Her shoulder throbbed where the man had twisted it, but the proxy statement was still safe against her chest. On the platform, she turned to her brother. "How did you find me?" "I followed you. Took the same train, stayed out of sight." He shrugged, trying to look casual, but she could see his hands trembling. "Figured you might need backup." "I told you to stay at the ranch." "Since when do I listen to you?" Eliza stared at him. Her little brother, 16 years old, standing in front of her with a rifle he had just fired at grown men. She pulled him into a hug so tight he grunted. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't mention it." He hugged her back just as hard. "Now can we please get out of here before they come back?" The train ride home was long and tense. Eliza kept watching the other passengers, looking for threats that never came. Josiah sat beside her with the rifle across his knees, not sleeping, not talking. When they finally reached Callahan Ranch, Jessie was waiting on the porch. He saw Eliza climb down from the wagon and was running before her feet touched the ground. "What happened? Thomas said you were supposed to be back hours ago. I was about to ride out. Whitfield's men found me." Eliza let him hold her just for a moment, just long enough to feel safe. "They cornered me in an alley, tried to take the proxy." Jessie went rigid. "Did they hurt you?" "They tried. Josiah stopped them." Jessie looked at the boy standing behind her. Something passed between them. Respect, maybe, or gratitude. "I owe you," Jessie said quietly. Josiah shrugged. "You owe me nothing. She's my sister. I'd die for her. Let's hope it doesn't come to that." Eliza pulled the proxy statement from her dress. Clara signed it. "Her votes are ours." Jessie took the paper. His hands were shaking as he unfolded it. He read it twice, 3 times, like he could not believe what he was seeing. "This changes everything," he said. "I know. With Clara's shares and mine combined, we have majority control. Whitfield can't push me out. He can't—" Jesse stopped. His face went pale. "He'll try something else. He has to. He won't just accept defeat." "Then we prepare for it." Eliza took his hand. "The board meeting is in 12 days. We use every one of them." They worked around the clock. Jesse met with lawyers, going over every document, every contract, every piece of paper that might give Whitfield an opening. Eliza wrote out to the smaller shareholders, the ranchers and farmers, who owned small pieces of the company, and talked to them one by one. She told them her story. The widow from nowhere, who married a stranger and found herself in the middle of a war she never asked for. She told them about Whitfield's threats, his hired men, his willingness to destroy anyone who stood in his way. Some of them listened. Some of them did not. But by the time the week was over, 3 more shareholders had promised their votes to Jesse. It still was not enough. Whitfield controlled 40%. Jesse and Clara together controlled 45%. The remaining 15% was split among a dozen small holders, and half of them were too scared of Whitfield to take sides. The night before the board meeting, Eliza found Jesse in the study again. He was not drinking this time. He was writing. "What's that?" she asked. "My speech, for tomorrow." He set down the pen. "If this doesn't work, if Whitfield finds some way to turn the vote, I want them to know why I fought, what I believe in, what kind of company this should be." Eliza sat down beside him. "Read it to me." He did. It was about his father and his mother, and the cost of building an empire on broken people. It was about the ranchers who worked the land and the families who depended on the company for their livelihoods. It was about doing things right even when doing them wrong was easier. When he finished, his voice was hoarse. "It's good," Eliza said. "It's real. Will it be enough?" "I don't know." She took his hand. "But whatever happens tomorrow, I'm proud of you. Proud to be your wife." Jesse turned to look at her. In the lamplight, his face was soft and open in a way she had never seen before. "I love you," he said. The words hung between them. Eliza felt them land in her chest, warm and heavy. "I know we haven't had time," Jesse continued. "I know this marriage started as a business arrangement. But somewhere along the way—" He stopped searching for words. "You're not just my partner, Eliza. You're the best thing that ever happened to me." She thought about Samuel, about the love she had buried with him, the part of her heart she had sworn she would never risk again. "I'm scared," she admitted. "I lost someone I loved once. I don't know if I can survive losing again." "Then we won't lose." Jesse lifted her hand to his lips. "We'll fight. Together. And whatever comes, we'll face it the same way." She leaned in and kissed him. It was not the desperate kiss of 2 people clinging to each other in the dark. It was the quiet kiss of 2 people who had found something worth keeping. "I love you too," she whispered against his mouth. "God help me, I do." The Cattlemen's Association building sat in the heart of Austin like a fortress. Eliza walked through the front doors with Jesse on one side and Josiah on the other. Her dress was simple but clean. Her hair was pinned back tight. Her chin was raised. The meeting room was already full. A long table dominated the center, surrounded by men in expensive suits. Whitfield sat at the head, his silver hair gleaming, his smile sharp as a knife. "Jesse?" He did not stand. "So glad you could join us. And you brought your wife. How charming." "Save it, Marcus." Jesse took his seat at the opposite end of the table. "Let's get this over with." The meeting began with formalities. Minutes from the last session, financial reports, projections for the coming year. Eliza sat behind Jesse, watching, waiting, feeling the tension build like a storm. Finally, Whitfield stood. "Gentlemen, we have a matter of some importance to discuss. As you all know, Mr. Callahan recently entered into a marriage that has raised serious concerns about his judgment and the stability of this company." "My marriage is not on the agenda," Jesse said. "It is now." Whitfield pulled a stack of papers from his briefcase. "I have here sworn statements from witnesses in Cimarron, Texas. They describe a hasty ceremony conducted without proper documentation, a bride who was under severe financial duress, and a groom who may have used that duress to coerce her into an agreement that benefits him financially. Eliza felt the blood drain from her face. That's a lie. Is it? Whitfield turned to her with mock sympathy. Mrs. Callahan, I understand this must be difficult. You were desperate. You needed money to save your ranch. And my stepson, my late partner's son offered you a way out. Who could blame you for taking it? Nobody coerced me into anything. Perhaps not intentionally, but the law recognizes that contracts made under duress can be voided. And marriages. Whitfield smiled. Well, marriages are just contracts with prettier names. Jesse stood. You have no evidence of coercion. I have her poverty. I have his wealth. I have a marriage that happened 3 days after they met. Whitfield spread his hands. The picture paints itself. You're twisting the truth. I'm protecting this company. Whitfield's voice hardened. Something you've never been willing to do. Your father built this empire with blood and sweat and sacrifice, and you're ready to hand it over to a woman you barely know because you were too lonely to find a proper wife. The room went silent. Every eye was on Jesse. Eliza could see him shaking, fighting to control the rage building inside him. My father, Jesse said slowly, was a monster. Gasps rippled through the room. He worked his employees until they broke. He destroyed anyone who stood in his way. He drove my mother to such despair that she... Jesse's voice cracked. He steadied himself. He built this company on suffering, and I refuse to continue his legacy. Pretty words. Whitfield was unmoved. But this is a business, not a charity. The shareholders want profits, not principles. Some of us want both. The voice came from the doorway. Everyone turned. Clara Whitfield stood there in a blue dress, her blonde hair swept up her face, pale but determined. Whitfield went white. Clara, what are you doing here? Exercising my rights as a shareholder. She walked into the room, her heels clicking on the wooden floor. I believe I have 20% of this company. That gives me a seat at this table. You transferred your votes to Jesse. I saw the proxy. I did. Clara took the empty chair next to Eliza. Because I trust him more than I trust you. I'm your father. You're the man who raised me to be a trophy. Clara's voice was steady, but Eliza could see her hands trembling beneath the table. You never asked what I wanted. You never cared what I thought. You just assumed I would do whatever you told me, because that's what good daughters do. Clara, this isn't the time. This is exactly the time. She stood again facing the room. Gentlemen, my father has spent 5 years trying to take control of this company away from Jesse Callahan. He's used lawyers' threats manipulation, and now he's trying to destroy a marriage to get what he wants. Is that the kind of man you want leading this company? Murmurs rippled through the room. Some of the shareholders looked uncomfortable. Others looked uncertain. Whitfield's face twisted with fury. You ungrateful! I'm not finished. Clara turned to Eliza. This woman came to my hotel room 3 days ago. She could have lied to me. She could have manipulated me. Instead, she told me the truth. About her life. About her marriage. About why she was really there. Clara's eyes were bright with unshed tears. She treated me like a person. Like someone whose choices mattered. No one has ever done that before. She turned back to her father. I'm done being your pawn, father. I'm done being anyone's pawn. From now on, I make my own decisions, and my decision is to stand with Jesse and Eliza Callahan. The room erupted. Voices shouted over each other. Whitfield slammed his hand on the table. The chairman called for order. Through it all, Eliza sat still watching, waiting. When the noise finally died down, the chairman cleared his throat. We'll take a vote. All in favor of removing Jesse Callahan as head of the Callahan Cattle Company. Whitfield raised his hand. So did his Eastern investors. So did 3 of the smaller shareholders who had been too scared to say no. All opposed. Jesse raised his hand. Clara raised hers. And one by one, the shareholders Eliza had visited over the past week raised theirs too. The chairman counted twice. Then a third time. "The motion fails," he announced. "Jesse Callahan remains in control of the company." Whitfield's face went gray. He looked at his daughter, then at Eliza, then at Jesse. Something broke behind his eyes. "This isn't over," he said quietly. "Yes, it is." Jesse stood. "You're done, Marcus. Your schemes, your threats, your decades of trying to take what isn't yours. It's finished. You think you've won." Whitfield gathered his papers with shaking hands. "But you don't understand what I've done, what I'm capable of. Before this is over, you'll wish you'd let me take the company quietly." He walked out of the room. His investors followed. The door slammed behind them. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Clara let out a breath she had been holding for what seemed like years. "Is it really over?" Eliza took her hand. "The vote is over. What comes next, that's up to us." Jesse came around the table and stood before both of them. "Thank you," he said. "Both of you. I couldn't have done this alone." "You're not alone." Eliza stood and faced him. "Not anymore. Not ever again." He pulled her into his arms, right there in front of everyone, and held her, like she was the only solid thing in a world that kept trying to spin apart. Outside, the Texas sun beat down on the streets of Austin. But inside that room, something new had been born. A partnership, a family, a future that no one could take away. At least that was what Eliza believed. She did not know that Whitfield had one final card to play, one secret he had been saving for exactly this moment. And when he played it, everything she thought she knew would shatter like glass on stone. The letter arrived 3 days after they returned to Callahan Ranch. Eliza found it on the front porch tucked beneath a stone. No stamp, no return address, just her name written in neat, careful script. She opened it with steady hands and read the words twice before they sank in. "Jesse." He came running from the barn, Thomas close behind. "What is it? What's wrong?" She held out the letter. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Samuel." Jesse took the paper. His face went pale as he read. The letter claimed that Samuel Dawson had not died in the Brazos River flood. It claimed he had survived badly injured and been taken in by a family upstream. It claimed he had spent 2 years recovering, unable to remember who he was. And it claimed he had finally regained his memory and was coming to reclaim his wife. "This is a lie," Jesse said. "Whitfield wrote this. He's trying to—" "I saw the body." Eliza's voice cracked. "I buried him. I stood at his grave and—" "Then this is fake. It has to be." "But what if it's not?" She grabbed his arm. "What if he's alive, Jesse? What if I married you while my first husband was still breathing? Eliza, that would make our marriage illegal. That would give Whitfield everything he needs to destroy us." Jesse pulled her close. She was shaking. He could feel her heart pounding against his chest. "Listen to me," he said. "Whatever this is, truth or lie, we face it together. We don't run. We don't hide. We find out what's real, and we deal with it. And if Samuel is alive—" Jesse was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "Then we figure out what that means. For all of us." The next morning, a stranger rode up to the ranch. Eliza saw him from his kitchen window. A man on a thin horse wearing clothes that had seen better days. He moved slowly like someone who had been hurt and never fully healed. Her heart stopped. She walked out onto the porch. Jesse was already there, his hand resting on the pistol at his hip. The stranger dismounted. He looked up at them with eyes that Eliza knew. Eyes she had looked into 1,000 times. Eyes she had closed for the last time 2 years ago. "Eliza." His voice was hoarse. "It's me. It's Samuel." The world tilted. Eliza grabbed the porch railing to keep from falling. "No," she whispered. "No, you're dead. I buried you." "You buried someone else. A man who was wearing my clothes when the flood hit. We got separated in the water and—" He took a step toward her. "I woke up 3 months later in a farmhouse 50 miles upstream. Couldn't remember my name. Couldn't remember anything. This is impossible. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm here. I'm alive. He reached out his hand. I came back for you. Jesse stepped in front of Eliza. That's far enough. Samuel looked at him. Really looked. His eyes moved to the wedding ring on Eliza's finger, then back to Jesse's face. So it's true, he said quietly. You married her. She thought you were dead. I know. Samuel's voice carried no anger, only exhaustion and something that might have been grief. I don't blame her. I don't blame either of you. But I'm her husband, her first husband, and the law says she's my wife now. The law says a woman can't marry again while her first husband lives. Samuel met Jesse's eyes. I ain't here to fight. I ain't here to cause trouble. I just want to talk to her, alone. Eliza stepped forward. Her legs felt like they belonged to someone else. Jesse, let me talk to him. Eliza. Please. Jesse looked at her for a long moment. Then he stepped aside. Samuel climbed the porch steps slowly. Up close, Eliza could see how much he had changed. He was thinner, older. A long scar ran from his temple to his jaw, but his eyes were the same. The eyes of the man she had loved, the man she had mourned. Walk with me, he said. They walked together toward the creek. Neither of them spoke for a long time. The summer heat pressed down on them like a weight. Finally, Samuel said, You look good, stronger than I remember. I had to be. After I thought you died. How bad was it? Bad. Eliza's throat tightened. The bank was taking the ranch. Josiah and I had nothing. I was 3 months from losing everything when Jesse showed up. And you married him. I married him because I didn't have a choice. Because it was that, or watch my brother end up in a poor house. She stopped walking and faced him. I thought you were dead, Samuel. I grieved you. I buried you. I tried to move on because that's what you would have wanted. I know. Samuel's voice was gentle. I ain't angry, Eliza. I got no right to be angry. Then why are you here? He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, A man came to see me 2 weeks ago, well-dressed, silver hair, said his name was Whitfield. Eliza's blood went cold. What did he want? He told me about you, about your new husband, about the ranch and the money and everything you'd gained. Samuel's jaw tightened. He offered to pay me a lot of money. All I had to do was come here and claim you were still my wife. And you took his money. I took his money because I was broke and starving, and I didn't know what else to do. Samuel's eyes were bright with shame. But I ain't here to destroy your life, Eliza. I ain't here to take you away from a man who obviously loves you. Then why did you come? Because I needed to see you. One more time. I needed to know you were okay. He reached out and touched her face just for a moment. And I needed to tell you the truth. About Whitfield. About what he's planning. Eliza grabbed his wrist. What is he planning? He's got a judge in his pocket. A judge who's going to rule that your marriage to Jesse is invalid because I'm still alive. Once that happens, Jesse loses control of the company. Whitfield takes over. And you... Samuel's voice broke. You lose everything. Again. When? Tomorrow. The judge is issuing the ruling tomorrow morning. Eliza's mind raced. One day. They had one day to stop Whitfield from destroying everything they had built. Samuel. She gripped his arm. You have to help me. How? You have to tell the truth. In front of witnesses. You have to admit that Whitfield paid you to come here. That this whole thing is a scheme to steal the company. Samuel pulled away. If I do that, Whitfield will have me killed. If you don't do it, innocent people will suffer. Jesse, me, Josiah, Clara, everyone who stood up against him. I can't. You can. Eliza grabbed his hands. Samuel, I know you. I know the man I married. You weren't perfect, but you weren't a coward either. You died, trying to make a better life for us. Are you really going to stand by and watch while a monster destroys the woman you loved? Samuel stared at her. The shame in his eyes was slowly being replaced by something else. Something that looked almost like resolve. "He'll kill me," he said again. "Not if we stop him first." They rode back to the house together. Jesse was waiting on the porch, his face tight with worry. "What happened?" "Whitfield paid him to come here," Eliza said. "He's got a judge ready to void our marriage tomorrow morning." Jesse's face went white. "That's not possible. He can't." "He can if Samuel testifies that he's my legal husband." Eliza climbed down from her horse. "But Samuel's willing to tell the truth. In front of witnesses. In front of the whole town if we have to." Jesse looked at Samuel. "Why would you do that?" Samuel met his eyes. "Because I spent 2 years forgetting who I was. And I just remembered." He glanced at Eliza. "I ain't a good man. Never was. But I ain't the kind of man who destroys innocent people for money. Not anymore." Jesse studied him for a long moment. Then he held out his hand. Samuel took it. "We got a lot of work to do," Jesse said, "and not much time to do it." They rode into Austin that night. Jesse, Eliza, Samuel, Josiah, and Thomas. Clara met them at the hotel with news. "The hearing is set for 9 in the morning," she said. "Judge Crawford's courtroom. My father's been meeting with him all week." "Crawford's crooked?" Jesse asked. "Crawford's desperate. He owes money to the wrong people. My father offered to make those debts disappear." "Then we need more than just Samuel's testimony. We need proof." Clara reached into her bag and pulled out a stack of papers. "Will these help?" Eliza took them. They were letters, dozens of them, all written in Whitfield's hand, all detailing his plans to take control of the company, bribe officials, and destroy anyone who stood in his way. "Where did you get these?" "From his study. He kept them in a locked drawer. He always underestimated how much attention I paid." Clara's smile was sharp. "He thought I was just a pretty face. He never imagined I might be paying attention." Jesse stared at her. "Clara, if he finds out you took these..." "Let him find out. I'm done being afraid of him." She lifted her chin. "He raised me to be a weapon. It's time I chose my own target." The courtroom was packed the next morning. Word had spread overnight. Everyone wanted to see the showdown between Marcus Whitfield and Jesse Callahan. Whitfield sat at the front, his lawyers arranged around him like a wall. He looked confident, certain of victory. Jesse and Eliza sat on the opposite side. Samuel was beside them, pale and quiet. Clara sat in the gallery, the stolen letters hidden in her bag. Judge Crawford called the court to order. His voice was steady, but Eliza could see the sweat on his forehead. "We are here to consider the matter of the Callahan marriage," he announced. "Mr. Whitfield has brought evidence that Mrs. Eliza Callahan was previously married to one Samuel Dawson, who is still living. If proven, this would invalidate her marriage to Jesse Callahan." Whitfield stood. "Your Honor, I have here a sworn statement from Mr. Dawson himself, confirming that he is indeed the first husband of Eliza Dawson Callahan." "The court will hear from Mr. Dawson directly." Samuel stood. His legs were shaking, but his voice was clear. "My name is Samuel Dawson. 2 years ago I was swept away in a flood on the Brazos River. Everyone thought I was dead, but I survived." "And you are the legal husband of Eliza Dawson." "I was." Samuel took a deep breath. "But there's more to this story. More than Mr. Whitfield wants you to hear." Whitfield's smile faltered. "Your Honor, this is not relevant." "Let him speak." Crawford's voice was sharp. Something had shifted in his face, fear maybe, or the first stirrings of conscience. Samuel turned to face the courtroom. 2 weeks ago, Marcus Whitfield came to the farm where I was living. He offered me $5,000 to come here and claim Eliza as my wife. He told me exactly what to say, exactly how to destroy her marriage and take everything from her husband. The room erupted. Voices shouted. Someone called for order. Whitfield was on his feet. "This is a lie. This man is a vagrant, a nobody. His word means nothing." "Then maybe my word will mean something." Clara stood up in this gallery. She walked forward, the letters clutched in her hands. "These are my father's private papers. Letters he wrote detailing every scheme, every bribe, every threat he's made over the past 5 years. She handed them to the judge. Including his payments to you, Your Honor. $3,000 to rule in his favor today. Crawford's face went gray. The courtroom fell silent. Whitfield lunged toward Clara. "You treacherous little—" Jesse was faster. He stepped between them, his fist connecting with Whitfield's jaw. The older man went down hard. "Touch her again," Jesse said quietly, "and I'll do more than knock you down." The sheriff moved in. Deputies surrounded Whitfield, hauling him to his feet. "Marcus Whitfield," the sheriff announced, "you're under arrest for bribery, conspiracy, and fraud." Whitfield struggled against the men holding him. His eyes found Eliza across the courtroom. "This isn't over," he spat. "You think you've won? You're nothing. A dirt-poor widow who got lucky. You'll never belong in his world. Never." Eliza walked toward him, slowly, steadily, until she was close enough to see the hatred burning in his eyes. "You're wrong," she said. "I don't belong to his world. I don't belong to anyone's world." She lifted her chin. "I built my own, and you couldn't take it from me no matter how hard you tried." The deputies dragged Whitfield away. His shouts echoed through the courthouse until the doors closed behind him. Eliza turned back to the courtroom. Jesse was waiting for her. So was Samuel. She walked to her first husband and took his hands. "Thank you," she said, "for telling the truth. I owed you that much, after everything." Samuel squeezed her fingers. "You got a good man, Eliza. Better than I ever was. You were good enough. Once, maybe." He released her hands and stepped back. "I think I'm gonna head west. California, maybe. Start over somewhere nobody knows my name." "Will you be okay?" "I'll survive. That's what Dawsons do." He smiled just a little. "Take care of yourself. And that brother of yours. He's turning into a fine young man." He walked out of the courthouse and disappeared into the Texas sun. Eliza watched him go, feeling the last piece of her old life slip away. Then Jesse's hand was in hers, warm and steady. "You all right?" he asked. "I will be." She leaned into him. "I will be." They held their real wedding 3 weeks later. Not in a back room with a half-blind preacher, but in the valley with the whole ranch watching. Rosa stood as witness. Josiah gave Eliza away. Clara threw wildflowers instead of rice. The vows were simple. No fancy words. No empty promises. Just two people choosing each other, knowing exactly what they were getting into. "I take you," Jesse said, "as my partner, my equal, the woman I want beside me for the rest of my life." "I take you," Eliza said, "as my husband, my friend, the man who saw me when nobody else would." They kissed while the ranch hands cheered and the summer sun poured down like a blessing. That night they sat on the porch of Callahan Ranch and watched the stars come out. Josiah had gone to bed. The hands had retired to the bunkhouse. The valley was quiet and still. "What happens now?" Eliza asked. "Now we build. The ranch, the company, our life." Jesse pulled her close. "Whatever comes, we face it together." "And Whitfield. He'll stand trial. Clara's letters are enough to put him away for years. And even if he gets out, he's finished. No one will trust him again." Eliza thought about that. The silver-haired man who had tried to destroy everything. The scheme that had brought Samuel back from the dead. The judge, the bribes, the threats. All of it had failed. Not because she was lucky. Not because she was rescued. But because she had stood her ground when everything told her to run. "You know what my mama used to say?" she said quietly. "What?" "She said a woman's worth ain't measured by what she has. It's measured by what she refuses to give up." Eliza looked out at the valley she now called home. "I gave up a lot in my life. My parents, my first husband, my ranch, my pride." She turned to face Jesse. "But I never gave up on myself. And I never will." Jesse lifted her hand to his lips. That's why I chose you. That's why I'll always choose you." She leaned into him, feeling the warmth of his body, the steady beat of his heart. She had come to this valley as a widow, with nothing but debt and desperation. She had married a stranger and discovered a world she never knew existed. She had faced down enemies who wanted to destroy her and found allies in the most unexpected places. And through it all, she had held on to the one thing no one could take away: the knowledge that her worth was not given by others. It was built by herself, choice by choice, fight by fight, day by day. The stars burned bright above Callahan Ranch. The summer wind carried the smell of grass and cattle and possibility. Eliza Dawson. Callahan had survived. She had fought. She had won. And this was only the beginning. If this story touched your heart, please hit the like button and subscribe for more emotional Wild West tales. Your support means everything to me. Until next time, remember, your worth is not what the world gives you. It is what you build for yourself, one brave choice at a time.